And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Network at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center, here in the heart of the city we love, Providence, Rhode Island. The naked city, the city of 1,000 stories. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. On the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. And of course, CoalitionRadio.us, the mothership. If you have a moment, please like us or follow us at any one of those pages. Independent media thrives and needs the support of the grassroots. It's how we manage to, shall we say, get at least something of a leg up on the mainstream media. Editorial note. The entire nation came to a pause just a few hours ago when we realized that our federal family remains intact. We've come together back as a nation. We can breathe again because our federal fathers are there, at least for the employees of the federal family. I wish no ill will on anyone. I don't want to see anyone in financial distress. I don't want to see anyone get laid off or lose their job or lose their source of employment. But at the same token, the collective nervous breakdown that the media had on behalf of federal employees who were furloughed, not laid off, not fired, not downsized, not right-sized, furloughed for about a month was astonishing to see. Watching our government here in Rhode Island rush to the rescue of $30,000 and $40,000 a year TSA agents and $60,000 to $100,000 middle-class bureaucrats, while at the same time the results from the state's pension plan were released this week that shows us in dire straits, was astonishing to see. During the Occupy movement, folks talked about the 1%. It's my contention that the 1% are federal and state employees. Now, some of them do some wonderful work. I'm not here to belittle their efforts, particularly on, shall we say, the grunt end of government. But at the same notion, federal employment in particular is a life ticket. You are immune from the perils of the dreaded free market, private markets. You are virtually employed for life, even if you should break some fairly onerous laws. You receive pension, health care, benefits. You join the cocoon. That is big government. Back in the 1970s, in Brezhnev-era Soviet Union, the term apparatchik was widely used in the Soviet Union. And that essentially translates into being a functionary. In the 40s, we would have called you a coat hanger, a bureaucrat, occupying really no role of importance. If you notice that outside of some key positions like air traffic control, which should be privatized, and the United States Coast Guard, which should be privatized, outside of a handful of public safety issues, the rest of the nation issued a collective yawn and moved on with their life. It's only those that were dependent on sustenance from the government or were part of the government that had this cathartic moment. Here's the point. We've created a special class of citizenry here in this nation, the federal employee, and to a certain degree the state employee. They are immune from all the perils of day-to-day life, and yet we're supposed to hang on every part of their life's journey to ensure a smooth transition throughout all the phases of their life. Because in the case of government, the regular citizenry are mere revenue opportunities and or necessary inconveniences to at least give lip service to justifying this astonishing bureaucracy. 800,000 non-essential employees. 800,000 employed to the tune of billions and billions of dollars a year. And over the last 30 days, didn't mean a damn thing to me. Issues and regulations stood alone, unissued or regulated. Beer bottles could not be issued. Trying to think else. Anything else?
No. Whatever it was probably wasn't necessary.
Yeah. So we've created this 1%. In Brezhnev-era Soviet Union, these apparatchiks got to shop at they call them the dollar stores. Not the dollar stores that we know, that folks like us have to go to. I'm talking about dollar stores because you were able to buy things that had been brought into the country in dollar-denominated purchases. Essentially, a special class of citizenry. You had DACAs, you had cars, you had a life, where the rest of the Soviet Union literally crumbled from within. The absence of a free market or free competition ultimately dissuaded people from engaging in the extra effort, the ingenuity that creates the prosperity that we still know to a degree here in the United States. That didn't exist. There was no reason, if you were a regular person, to try to excel. You would not be rewarded. The only people who would be rewarded would be this 1%. And we're there here in the United States now. And the last 30 days damn well proved it. So sleep tight, Rhode Island and the United States. Understand that as the mere mortals, the great unwashed, toil through their daily efforts, that if somehow you're the lucky one, you get the lottery, you get the golden ticket, that you can join, perhaps, this 1%, accountable to none, a productivity of nothing, merely a wonderful life because, well, it's been approved by your federal family. So joining me in studio for the very first time is someone that I've gotten to know very well, particularly over the last year, but I've seen has been a fixture on the Liberty, if you will, circuit here, the Liberty movement here in Rhode Island for a number of years. You can see him at a First Amendment audit near you. You can see him at public protests. He records. He's engaged. Frankly, all of you could learn a little bit from my good friend Joa Orga. Welcome to the coalition.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, you are an international man of mystery. You're in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, I don't use like my birth name, so
right.
Joa Orga it sounds kind of weird, but it means something. Joint operating agreement is JOA, which is like what corporations use in courts. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like throws them a curveball when they hear that. And then Orga means human, so I'm a consenting human. That's kind of where I was going with that.
Excellent. So what? You work in the dreaded free market.
Yeah.
In a variety of efforts, mostly entrepreneurial.
Yep.
But what? Tell us about. Were you born here in Rhode Island, or?
Yeah, I was born here in Providence. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Grew up in Providence. Went to school in Providence.
Cumberland, but yeah.
Okay. The mean streets of Cumberland. The hood.
No, it wasn't that bad.
What was that album? Straight Out of Cumberland.
Yeah, suburbia.
Straight out of Valley Falls.
Yeah, I didn't live too far from Central Falls, so I've seen that mix, but
okay.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. So, the question we ask seemingly every week to people like yourself who are activists, clearly there had to have been that one moment in time, that one moment in your life. Tell us what it was. An event? Was it something that happened to you personally? What drove home the surely unquenchable need to fight for liberty here in Rhode Island? What happened?
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail on where it all started, but I started getting involved by looking up the law, and I joined the Ron Paul grassroots efforts here in Rhode Island, and helped him run for president in 2008 as a delegate, and then as well as 2012. So I got a lot of mix of people in there. I started doing like the little bit of activism I was doing was just like not sign protests, but like sign wavings for Ron Paul. But they ended up becoming like protests in essence, because like they were taking our signs down, to stop trying to prevent us from actually waving signs on 95. It was a little ridiculous, but yeah.
Well, and that was kind of the history of the Ron Paul movement. The Republican Party, I believe, is grinding ever so slowly to a halt in this country. And you can trace the beginning of that grind, that sort of descent into oblivion, I believe, not the Nixon administration, not any one of the mediocrities that presented as President of the United States, but the refusal of the Republican elite to accept Ron Paul into the fold. And what I mean by that is Ron Paul wasn't going to win the nomination.
Sure. I think we kind of all knew that, and it was a media blackout for sure. But it was more about spreading the word of liberty, and it definitely got a movement going, sparked it.
But at the same time, it seems like the Willard Romneys of the world weren't content with simply just letting the effort come to its kind of logical conclusion. They had to do the victory.
Oh yeah, they pulled every little trick out of the hat there to make sure he wasn't even closely recognized, even at the conventions and stuff.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a rough game, but he broke some records.
No, and listen, for a significant part of the libertarian movement, whether it's a small L or a large L, ties their connection, particularly if you're 20 to 40 years old, ties their connection to the Ron Paul movement.
Sure.
And I believe that successive generations, whether it be culture, politics, business, provide an infusion of energy and intellectual capital into a movement, and by neutering, if you will, or putting the smackdown of the Ron Paul movement, that ceased to happen then in the Republican Party.
Right. I think it's this breakaway from like principled people and like this illusion the Republican Party wants to like kind of portray that they are the moral, standpoint of things. And, the left is reactionary, but like the right is more like this principled, Christian base mostly. I would really say that. But if you ignore like a lot of the things that the good old boys have been doing and start going back to those principles, then you'll find it's really a libertarian party now that's like established that viewpoint that really what we want to accomplish here in the United States or in our communities.
Particularly as a reaction to the Libertarian Party's own failed attempts at centrist, I'll call it centrist libertarians as opposed to principled libertarians.
Right.
I mean, to me, the reason why the Libertarian Party has promise and potential, and we're going through our own birthing process ourselves, is that unlike say progressive Democrats, we stepped away from the Republican Party completely.
Yep.
We now have kind of finally grown out of that Republican Liberty Light thing in terms of presidential candidates, and I'm convinced that the Libertarian Party will nominate someone who might not have the mass appeal as a presidential candidate, but will be highly, highly principled and will articulate a clear liberty message under the guise of the Big L Libertarian Party. The rank and file are screaming for that right now.
It'd be nice to have that national organization, but you know what? Even if we just work on a local level and have that little L, it's fine. As long as like we're doing what we can here to react to what's happening here, because like the national level, I don't know how they would really help. We're going to a deep subject here, like.
Yeah, no. I mean, your focus is primarily local.
Oh yeah, because like how much control do I have on a federal level right now, or like a nationwide level?
Right.
I have more effect here in a small state than I could ever have, even in larger states.
Absolutely. No. That nails it. I mean, we've got an opportunity here in Rhode Island, Liberty people, to really take advantage of the economies of scale, the small size, the accessibility, the use of social media and broadcast media that's available to us, and really become a case study for the rest of the nation.
And like I would say is like coming out of the Ron Paul campaign and being principled in like in a moral, personal stance, it really breaks it down on every little level of what things I do amongst the state and the community. So like this is where I'm kind of branching to my YouTube channel here, and like the different things that I do, like even like challenging things in court. Is that I'm doing these on a principled manner. I'm not doing it just to be, the snob in their face like they think I am. No, I'm actually fighting my tickets now. Like that's unheard of them. And yeah, I don't know if.
No, absolutely. And I want to get into the nice thing about this. The format here is we can get literally into every aspect. And as an example, and we'll get into the specifics, but somehow we've created this carnival atmosphere around law enforcement and parking in this city.
Oh, sure.
And we've got this much beloved. Is he a judge? Is he not a judge? Aping on TV and getting people, I think, to do a dance to provide entertainment value to get out of the economic violence that parking tickets represent to people of lesser means.
It's a public official monetizing people's emotions. That's how I look at it. He and the fact that even though he might not get a ticket, so in the legal process of things, ignore the cameras, in the legal process, he may not be taking any money from them, or he's saying dismissed or whatever. He's still making money on this end of things when he has the cameras rolling. If anything, he makes more that way.
I think it's an abomination.
Oh yeah,
it's insulting. Making people essentially jump for their food and jump for their sustenance here.
It's sad. You see people bring in like their grandson. They dress them all up nice and neat, and like they make like a little scene. The kid sits on his lap. Like it's just all too weird. It holds up. Actually, I think his permit for having those cameras in there is actually holding up city proceedings or court proceedings, and is actually can be considered you have a due process in a timely manner. If it's taken us 2 hours to go through 10 people, it's absolutely perversion in that too. So I don't know. I'm weighing all the different things that are happening in there, and it's just not right. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, people's lives shouldn't be a sideshow. They shouldn't have to feel like they're part of a freak show.
Yeah.
In order to get some level of justice from a system that's designed to screw them.
Right. For people that never committed a crime, there's no victims.
Right.
It's just arbitrary laws on the streets you've already paid for. And it's not just parking tickets. It's those red light cams and the speed cams. They're all unconstitutional. Everything's unconstitutional.
No, it remains, and the challenge here in a place like Rhode Island is getting people energized to do what you're doing. So let's go through each part of the efforts, if you will, because there's a number of things you do which are fascinating to me because you're starting to rack up wins.
Oh yeah.
And this is not in common 1960s parlance. They would have said that you were chasing windmills. And there's an old show, Man of La Mancha, where the hero chased windmills.
Yeah.
You're not chasing windmills.
No.
You're engaging in a very interesting form of civil disobedience, combined with a use of your legal rights.
If anything, it's very educational. I'm learning their process the hard way.
Right.
Right? I don't care. I'll pay a little extra for that fine, but I learn what not to do next time. You know? And even things that I won recently, I still feel like I did them wrong because I can still fight it in a different way, and because you just learn things. Like if you're a new lawyer, you're not going to learn everything off the bat. You know, right. You have to get to know people, and it's a process. Yeah, and I'm definitely not making any friends with the city or state doing these things, but I don't care. They're not my friends. They're trying to take money from me.
Right. So
why would I want to buddy with them?
Yeah, they're essentially using economic violence. They're using violence to separate you from your private property.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, they are using actual violence too. Which I lobbied for APA requests today from Johnston Police Department because a supervisor put his hands on me, and a city prosecutor put his hands on me outside the courtroom in the lobby of the police station. I have that already on film. I have both of them already on film, but I'm now requesting the lobby footage so I have a second angle. But yeah.
So let's go through a couple examples recently now. I mean, if we were to give an overview, you're involved in First Amendment audits.
Yeah. Right. It's not my particular fancy, but yeah.
Right. You're involved in fighting the pseudo-criminal apparatus we have in the form of lifestyle crimes, I'll call them, here in the state, which we've elevated to be a form of economic terrorism. So let's take the parking issue first. What I hate the word triggered because it's a pejorative now, but what prompted you to get involved in fighting these issues?
Well, I do think we already paid for these roads. I find it very arbitrary that I hire a whole staff of people just to go around to collect salaries and ticket cars, and I wonder, I don't know the figure on how much money they make on these tickets, but I'm trying to make a dent in them actually doing it onto these cars. And one of the ways I was doing that, it was I had a bunch of cards made up that say that I was the Robin Hood of Providence, and I saved your car from a ticket by putting a nickel. You can do as low as a nickel in those meters. Now, if you had the printout ticket meters, it's a different story. I have to print them out at a minimal amount. It's just a headache. But I'll forward follow the meter maids and do that and save people from tickets. If we had a few people doing this in the summertime where it's super busy, we could probably put a huge dent in their budgets. Excuse me. But you should be able to also challenge them. And I was able to challenge one because the city had put in meters over on South Main Street, but they were experimental meters, and they don't always work. So I had to make sure that I got that on film from a meter maid, and I did. I asked her, is these experimental meters over here? And she's like, yes. And then I was like, sometimes they don't work, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, thank you. I'm going to use this for court. I didn't have to use it. But I proved it. They dismissed that before I even got into the court. So That parking ticket was already done. And I had 2 other tickets during that court session, which I already asked for it to go to trial. And I had Judge Lombardi. So I didn't even have Caprio for the actual trial. But Lombardi was okay. And the other 2 tickets were a red light cam, which I challenged, and I fought that all the way. And the prosecutors failed to submit the video as evidence, so they had to dismiss the case just because they didn't have any evidence at that point. So you have to submit it into the court.
Now, what's astonishing is, again, I'll go I love old expressions. The term ham-handed. It's an old expression that says you just can't keep your stuff together. You're a mess. How is it that a city administration that spends untold amounts of money on outside parking meter support sees parking meters as incredibly enough a source of income, but at the same time, I mean, they're just such a mess on every level. They really, I think the first accomplishment of many that you've had is pointing out how it's just hopelessly inept.
Yeah.
There's at one level intimidating police presence here in the state. They're a mess, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, all right. So let me make a point about the audits: is that I don't aggress. I'll just be recording, and if they have a problem with them being recorded, and their reaction is obscure or weird or whatever or mean or violent, you're just making me get views, and I'm breaking the secret here about audits. So if you're good, I'm not gonna get that many views. So don't get me views. Treat me like a person in the public. And if I'm a person, I'm a journalist. I don't reveal that right away, but I have the right to film just like anybody else because we have constitutional rights. We have the First Amendment right, and if you're in a public place, you have the right to film.
There is no presumption of privacy, or there is no real presumption that the police or law enforcement or government has the ability to hide anything. And that's in any public place, including public lobbies, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
And what have some of your experiences been? I mean, you're not going into back offices. You're not sneaking into locker rooms.
I'm very, very meticulous about signage, and if it says restricted area, I won't go in a restricted area. But yeah, if it's a public way, a public lobby, I'll film as much as I can. Let's hope you don't have a problem with it. And I'm sorry that you feel that way if you get upset, but you know what? Do your best to just be cordial, and you're not going to be a star on my YouTube channel, I guess. I mean, I actually do praise when cops do the right thing. So I'm like, did they pass or did they fail? You have to show both sides of the story. I'm not just showing the bad instances.
Right.
I'd rather not, But that's where I'm going to make my views, too. So I'm going to post it online.
Well, I mean, my takeaway from watching your stuff is that there are people out there who are looking to provoke a fight.
Yeah.
You're simply observing civil liberties.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not looking to create news. You're simply recording public reactions by government agents.
That's the news story. That is the news story.
Right.
How they react to constitutional rights being practiced.
That simple.
That's it.
What rights do people have? I mean, one of the challenges here in Rhode Island is that we no longer teach young people civics at any level.
No, at least not properly.
Right, and the flaw there is, for those who for some reason don't think they need to, is that how do you understand your rights if you don't know what they are? So what rights do people have for example, in interaction with law enforcement?
What rights do they have? They have the right to remain silent. That's like the biggest one right there, because if a cop starts asking you questions, personal questions, asking for your ID or anything like that, if you haven't broken any crime or you have, they don't have reasonable suspicion to suspect of you of a crime, then you are free to go. They can't detain you, nothing. They ask for a supervisor. Like to kind of coach you around this is that you just need to be quiet. Most lawyers would just tell you to just shut up, just say nothing, and that'll save you more than anything. But I'll say I don't answer questions. They start asking me questions, so that way they just stop. They will not continue to ask me questions. I don't answer questions. You know, you're creating a story for me. I'm not gonna like make me the story right now.
Right. Right. When in fact you're there to record it. So, you know, so you've got these 2 or 3 situations. First of all, responding to parking tickets.
Yeah.
Every single one you get, or you would advise people to first off challenge them. Challenge
it, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to, you know, take that chance of paying the full amount and a court fee possibly, then challenge it if you got the time.
Right.
And like parking meters, it's a different story. So those are hard. I'm trying to figure those out right now. But like you say, you got an overnight parking ticket. All you have to say to them is, can you prove that I was there parked overnight and not just at the time on the ticket?
Interesting.
And they'll throw it out every time. So that means they would have to circle around, make sure everyone's parked in the same area long enough for them to get an overnight ticket. Like what is the expansion of that time? It's arbitrary, right?
Right.
Okay, so that all your overnight tickets, throwing them out the window. They just take them to court, you'll win them every time.
Yeah, simply by questioning their documentation.
That's right.
And that if there's a key element in each one of these things, it's documentation.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
What about now? Okay, so you do a First Amendment. Explain what a First Amendment audit is.
A First Amendment audit is I'll take my camera on my phone and I'll just start recording in a public space, or maybe a traffic stop that it's occurring, and I'll stay in a safe distance. I won't interfere. I'm gonna just record the situation. If there's kids, I'm just personally, on my own moral level, I'm not gonna record kids. I'm gonna avoid putting them in the picture as much as I possible. And I'm also trying not to cover like sensitive things, but up to a degree. Like this girl that was having a panic attack the other day because she was being filmed. Like, no, you are having a panic attack. I'm not giving you a panic attack because it's out of my control. It's your responsibility to react properly when you're under a camera. And in reality, we're under cameras all the time.
Right.
So I find this camera right here more nerve-wracking than what this might do because we should just be used to it by now, you know?
Right. And so you're armed with your camera phone, your high-resolution camera phone.
Yeah, I'm equipped. I think armed is implying a weapon.
Well, it's a weapon for freedom. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you look at anything from the infamous Lucy situation to, the guy who's selling Lucy's in Staten Island to so many cases, our life is, and the protection of our civil rights is arguably in a different planet, universe, because of the existence of cell phone cameras.
Oh, yeah. To be able to communicate easily across the world, and I don't use it that often, but I can live stream, and I can tell people right where I am, and then I'll get like some backing. I'll get like a lot of people watching. It's amazing how it works. It really is. It's a miracle like that we have something like this.
Right, and you wonder, you've got to wonder if you're a cynic like I am, how long it'll be tolerated. And that's what's so critical about grassroots efforts like yourself. Because if we cede the ground to the most elemental invasion of our rights, ultimately government will feel empowered to take it to the next level, which is to prevent us from filming or even eliminate our access to devices that can film in public places. I'm convinced of that.
No, there's this movie called The Circle, all right, but it was it's kind of a cheesy film. But the thing was that like they went on like this thing where they could find anyone in the world really quick by just pulling out cameras, and everyone could just like stop finding somebody, right? Around the world, try to figure it out, and people researching really quick. Yeah, I could see that as being like a problem where, it could be that realm to like round people up, like you don't have to be able to use your cameras. But I don't know. I say if you're not doing anything wrong, then don't worry about it. Like in a certain degree, if you're in public, you shouldn't be doing anything wrong anyways. Like.
Well, you shouldn't be aggressing people's rights, other people's rights. That's in the libertarian movement we have the NAP, the non-aggression principle. But at the same time, there are so many behaviors which the government, in their effort to monetize and create a monopoly for, have decided to literally criminalize. And the most recent one is sports betting. If you and I ran 2 months ago, we're running a poker game, after our libertarian events, and it'd be a pretty tough one because they're pretty smart people, and card counting would be everywhere. But if we chose to do that, we'd be criminals. We'd be arrested,
right,
and we'd be subject to the full brunt of law enforcement. And yet here we are, just a month later. The state is receiving record revenue because they have a monopoly on sports betting. So you've got behavior that they've decided to rationalize as moral because it supports the state. And
right, it's like they have a monopoly on smoking cigarettes inside too.
Right. Yeah, it's all good. That's why it's ultimately all driven by control and by money. Absolutely. So and I understand First Amendment audits are just sort of one of the things that you're involved in peripherally. But what is the purpose of a First Amendment audit per se?
Do you have it? Do we have it? Are we going to do the law enforcement or public officials understand their oath of office, which is to uphold the Constitution? Are they following their own oath? And if they can't respect just a basic thing like your First Amendment right, which is the last line of your rights, because if they take them all away, all you got is your voice or your video camera to prove something, or it really, like, if they try to take this right away, I'd be very shocked, very shocked.
Right, yeah. It is really on the front line of civil rights.
Absolutely,
the cell phone camera. All right, so you've got that. You've got the objection to parking tickets. Now I know you've been involved in a number of organizations. What other things are you involved in now or in the past that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I mean, I'll plug my friend's channel, Auditing America. He's been going out much harder than me and like getting a lot more footage. He just came out with the video today. That's going to be, it just blows a lot of his videos out of the water. It's insane. They totally violated his First Amendment right at the offices in Pawtucket today, and it really, go check that out. I mean, I would love to just plug it for a second if I can.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, because let's see here. It's called Illegally Detained and Assaulted First Amendment Audit Fail, and you'll find him as Auditing America. That's his most recent video. It's pretty astonishing how they treated him, but I'll definitely show you that later, Pat.
No, absolutely, and we'll share some links to it so folks can so we can break this into a. I want to make this very clear. You and a number of the organizations monitoring civil rights in the state were first seen as, or I should say, local government attempted to diminish your importance by calling you gadflies or this or that. You were out of the mainstream, whatever. Yet your efforts, your and your community's efforts, if you will, have become completely validated.
Yeah.
I think of the John Miner situation in Pawtucket just a couple of years
ago.
ago.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Where here you had a United States Marine veteran on his personal property with proper documentation to carry a weapon on his personal property, was not aggressing anyone with that, and was arrested, detained, without rights read for a better part of a day.
Yeah, and then released without charges.
Right, released without charges. And that's
disarmed for a month, by the way.
Right.
Disarmed for a month. They wouldn't give his stuff back.
And this is, to belie the point. Again, if you're using their metrics as to what is quote unquote legitimate, this gentleman is a United States Marine who served our nation and left in the highest of honor. So if they can do these things to, and because we all know that the rate of, I'll call it civil rights violations, are exponentially higher in certain communities, particularly where there are people of color. And those folks don't have a lot of the economic clout. So there's a tendency to say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, don't worry about it, and that's them, that's not us, until you see situations like you're talking about where, wait a minute, they're coming after us now. And the oldest cliche, but still one of the most powerful statements is, they came for and nothing was done. Then they came for and nothing was done. Well, you know what? They're coming here for all of us.
Oh yeah, they're not discriminating anymore. It's those who challenge them and those who don't challenge them. Are you going to go along with everything they tell you, sit, stand, get in line? Are you going to do that? Or are you going to do what you want to do, which is live life and be free. And if people try to start telling you to get in line and you don't, that's up to you to be responsible and, like, you know, stop filming them to expose that, and that we're not going to fall in line. We're gonna stay in our own morality, and as long as we're not hurting anyone, we're not breaking the law, the natural law of things, and we should be fine. Like, that's a peaceful society supposed to be, you know. But when people force you to get in line, I got a problem with that. I don't.
No, and again, it is a slippery slope come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely is. Now, I know you've been involved in a couple of organizations in Pawtucket.
Yeah. Oh, community response.
Yeah, tell folks a little bit about
So, me and my friends started this group called Community Response. We were going to Pawtucket City Hall meetings, kind of like seeing all the ridiculousness that they do in there, violating my rights a couple of times. I was on the news for something stupid, and we were just like trying to get people to start talking about it. And then we started doing Freedom of Information requests. They're called APRA requests here in the state. And then we...
well, explain that process for a little bit, because a lot of folks think of AFRA as sort of as something that only the ACLU or lawyers can use. You know, talk about the process and what you can get from an AFRA request.
Well, you can get anything that's documented. And so video footage, paperwork, criminal investigations, complaint forms, anything that's been filed, and it's done with this investigation, that you should be able to acquire it. And if they deny you that, then you go to the Attorney General. If they deny you there, I don't know, ACLU.
No, and the ACLU has been, when it comes to open records, we had Stephen Brown call in a couple of weeks ago, and you know, it's there's been a tendency to point out Peter Kilmartin as being sort of the devil when it came to civil rights, and well, he was, you know, to be blunt. What's equally disturbing is that they are, and he made a claim.
Well, the sealed indictments, right?
Right. Well, the sealed indictment, but also anything that is a memorandum or any type of paperwork and process does not have to be revealed. It can be heavily redacted. And what's disturbing, I think, was the assumption that Peter Nerona was kind of the Rhode Island's version of the Lone Ranger coming to save the day, the White Knight, if you will. And now we already see, literally in the opening moments of the Nerona administration, some of the same behavior as Peter Kilmartin, which should, if that trend should continue, that should point out to everyone that any time you create a position of authority over people who have full access to the criminal justice system, and yet at the same time are able to pierce the veil of legitimate privacy, you've got the huge potential for abuse.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, this is a state that, you know, decided, you know, created a prescription medical database and said that, you know, this would be only for testing and analysis. Until said Peter Kilmartin decided that he was going to get a law passed that said you no longer needed a warrant.
Yeah, total
to investigate the prescription medical database.
That's a total violation of Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, right? Yeah. Personal papers and effects, and your personal information that's only restricted between you and your doctor is now going to be in the law enforcement's hands at any traffic stop. That's insane.
And here's the thing. I mean, you say that can't be done. Well, ultimately, a protection is only strong enough if people fight to enforce it.
That's right. If we all just go along with it, then they think they can just get away with it all the time.
Right.
So we have to challenge it.
You have to. It is your civic duty to.
Yeah.
You know, it is your damn responsibility as a citizen to pay attention and to challenge these things. And for the folks who saw, and I think there was an attempt again by the Pawtucket administration a couple of years ago that saw your attempt as being just something to belittle them. One only need visit the state of Pawtucket right now, which is on this brink of basically virtually collapsing.
Oh, yeah. They're having huge problems financially, and yeah.
Right. I mean, just literally on the brink of a nervous breakdown. And you know, I mean, you've got, you know, a hospital left, the ill-fated attempt to use taxpayer dollars for the Pawtucket Red Sox. You've got a fire department that, who literally is crumbling in front of us. Not for the want of
It's crumbling and then being, broken up into small lines and then...
Yeah.
Because, did you hear about that firefighter?
Yeah. Yikes. So this is how it all begins. This is really the front line, isn't it? What are your thoughts on police cameras?
I'm for them, but we have to show all the angles, as many angles as possible. More cameras, the better. I don't really trust the cameras, the use of the cameras, the angles of the cameras. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen body cams on cops, but they're very restricted in the view. Yeah, it's pointing out from here straight forward, but their hands are in the way, their arms are in the way. A lot of times, I don't find it as accountability. I find them that they use those cameras to hold it against you. Miraculously, sometimes those body cam footages disappear, and that's all under the control of that police officer. So it's I can see why that's happening. Which
is why the ARPA requests for public video, and there are cameras everywhere, everywhere in this city.
Yeah.
Which is why the ARPA request, a freedom to request those public records and be given them, is so critical to defense. Because very often, that extra camera footage, it's not the government camera footage that's going to save your collective butt, is it?
Typically not. You got to do it yourself. Put dash cams in your car. You can buy little cheap body cams now, and your phone. Your phone is the key. Right here.
And the ability to stream live.
Yeah, cops make up charges all they want all day. You get your camera out, they're less likely to do that. They're less likely to violate your rights. I just find it ironic that they violate your rights when you do film them now.
Well, there's a certain element that's not going to want to overcome that. That's probably the quote-unquote better cops and better law enforcement.
Oh, I agree.
Right?
And yeah.
But there's a certain element that at this point is so power-driven that they realize that, it's that you create that first civil infraction, and if you don't have the money to fight it or to pay for it,
take community service.
Right.
I used my own. One time, did I tell you this one? Is that I had previous parking tickets and red light cams and stuff like that, and I basically said to the judge I couldn't afford it, and I'll take community service, and so he put a set number of hours. I went to Cumberland Parks and Recreation, and I asked him, hey, instead of picking up trash, can I do something more creative? And I came up with the idea of documenting and drawing wild native plants. Because I had art skills, and I just drew these things with pencils. And I submitted it to them. They framed them. They were up on the wall, and that paid off my tickets. Providence has never gotten any of my money. They don't. That's the key. Is don't let them have your money. Don't demonetize them, and then they won't be able to function.
That's really you have to strangle it at the root, and the root is essentially it's not unlike some of these criminal cartels. You starve them for money. You starve them for the resources that they need to oppress you.
That's right. I'm one of a million here. So if we could get 100 people to challenge these things, it's going to bog down their courts. They're going to have to schedule all these trials for frivolous little tickets here and there, and they won't be able to catch up. Another point I want to make about all those the red light cams is that the accusing party never shows up, and that is the winning defense.
Well, we'll explain that more. Develop on that.
So when you get a red light cam, it's a private company that acquires the photos and video. They don't show up to court. Maybe this will get them to show up to court, but if they have lawyers come out to court every time, they won't make any money. So your accusing party has to show up. The cop that signs off on the video isn't the original accuser.
Really? This is fascinating. The company itself.
Of course, a private company. By the way, this is the only product they produce is video and pictures, and they make $2 million a year.
Right.
And they basically are rats, and they rat out to the police. Here, this guy broke the law. Could you imagine every private business? Imagine Go Local Prov capturing footage of the street of people breaking the law all day, and then submitting it like a rat to the police.
Right.
I can see like instances like maybe there's like an actual violent crime being committed that you guys would want to do that for a better community, but it's not bettering the community to report on frivolous traffic laws like that hurt nobody, that no one reported you, and like except for this rat cameras that are everywhere.
So now, and by the way, Pawtucket has announced that. Which is, if you live or work in or near Pawtucket, and if you've been down either Armistice Boulevard or worse yet, Newport Avenue, and you see the financial devastation, shopping center after shopping center after shopping center just empty, just completely abandoned, essentially. The notion that somehow making it, I'm convinced that's not only a result of just Rhode Island's confiscatory sales taxes, Rhode Island's confiscatory inventory taxes, Rhode Island's confiscatory cost of doing business. Newport Avenue for years was known as the place where driving records went to die. It was one of the most highly processed speed traps in the state. At one point,
still is.
15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a couple $1 million a year they were bringing in until people just stopped driving on Newport Avenue.
That's right. Yeah.
You literally, you have, if you're going to the East Bay from Cumberland, or you can either go down Newport Avenue or you could drive all the way to Providence and up 195. What does everybody do? They drive all the way to Providence and they drive up 195 because no one in their right mind wants to drive down Newport Avenue because the popo be waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what have they accomplished there for the people who live there or try to have businesses there?
It shut it all down. They used to, like, you know that big shopping plaza where Friendly's used to be, and like the only thing that's like functioning is a Taco Bell now, and like the whole parking lot, like this huge complex. Every store, like every other store in there is like shut down. Maybe a little small couple things in there, but it's dead. So
you create an element of fear that leads to an element of where people essentially vote with their wallets.
That's right. Yeah. Basically, that's
and now they're going to put up speed cameras. I mean, what are they thinking?
I don't think they want people to live in Pawtucket. Like, why would you want to go to places that constantly fine you? I wouldn't want to go there. I had trouble putting coins into a meter because I felt like I was being like stolen from. Right.
No, exactly. And you know that they'll initially be all over the prosecution. But what you're saying, I want to be clear on this, is that if you go to if you get stuck by a speed camera, just knee-jerk automatically fight it.
I would say so. Well, I mean, this is a little precursor. I'm going to be challenging speed camera. Yeah.
You're okay. Can you let me know
for its constitutionality?
Okay.
So I'm going to be trying to get it all completely torn down in Providence. It's all just going to end. And I don't know, we can recycle those cameras at the junkyard or something.
What was the one clever Craigslist ad? Basically, wanted for salvage costs. Just turn one of these cameras in.
Yeah. Or like the one that fell over, someone knocked it over. It was like R2-D2 falling over. That was great.
No, it's outstanding.
I wonder what the constitutionality is, and I don't think it's obstruction because it's a private company with the camera on the road. If I just stood in front of it, what would happen? Nothing.
So what we're saying is our own version of this is Rhode Islanders' attempt to copy the Chinese citizen blocking the tank at Tiananmen Square.
That's right. That's right. It'll be like I should have a couple grocery bags in my hand while I'm doing it. That would be hilarious.
Now, we've only got a couple minutes left. But have you? I've got to believe that there have been times when you've been targeted personally because of your willingness to just philosophically at least extend a large, in-your-face middle finger.
Okay, yeah. There's this organization called Turtle Boy Sports, and I'm sure they'll maybe find this video. And I believe they're trying to dox me once again because I saw them in the police station the other day, and she was all very standoffish and like wanting to talk to me. But she was wearing the Turtle Boy shirt and everything. But they tried to make me look bad and all this stuff about because I didn't stand for the pledge one to the Pawtucket. No, it wasn't that. They brought that up in the article, not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance in Pawtucket, but it was the my scrutinizing of the Central Falls Police. If you look up Central Falls Police, my video will be #1 on YouTube, and you'll see like how that all went down. They scrutinized for that.
Yeah, and tell us what happened, because that's particularly provocative.
Oh, that whole instance?
Yeah.
Well, I saw this kid getting pulled over, and I stood like across the street from him, and he asked me if I could record. So he actually initiated asking me to go like cross the street and stop recording the situation, because I guess he's been getting harassed. That's what he told me afterwards. So I just started filming it, and the police show up. They call for backup, and the backup police did not talk to the driver. So there was only like 1 or 2 cops actually talking to the driver for the pullover. The rest were talking to me. And it got to the point where they were getting in my face, trying to like figure out charges on me, like saying that I'm loitering. No, I'm pressed right now. I'm within my confines of my First Amendment granted in the Constitution to film you. And then she tries to put her hands on me, tries walking through my path, one of the officers, Rodriguez 33. Then, they just kept on restricting my rights to try to film the situation. I tried to hold my ground as I was sipping on my smoothie there. Right. And I just put them in their place. And, like, they think that they own me, or they think they can control what I do. It's not true. I tell them what to do. I pay their salaries. And I was within my rights completely. The driver of the car came out afterwards after the stop, and he's like, "Yo, this guy is pro rights. He has every right to do this." And he's like, he was schooling the cops. Like, yeah. It was great.
I mean, why not just simply let democracy proceed? Why not let people's civil rights stay intact?
Because they know they do something wrong.
It's tragic. From the Jump Out Boys in Providence to the kind of madness that the petty harassment that individual citizens have to take, the power trips have got to end.
Oh, yeah.
It's
maybe we don't need them in office, too. The ones that have those power trips and act up. Because I sure as don't want them handling a sensitive situation out on the streets. Or
right. It's a key barometer to show how they fail us on a regular basis here.
I feel like they don't know their job as well as they should.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we've seen nationwide, we've seen multiple cases where people, police officers are questioned by people that they are trying to take into custody, and it's clear that they don't even have the most basic training on situations that the police have injected themselves into. I do feel badly for some of the better behaved officers because they're put in position to fail. They're being pressed by a system to harass and aggress on one's civil rights, and they're not being trained on how to handle and deflate a potentially dangerous situation.
Or they're there with their buddy cop that's acting out, and now they're kind of like in this associated moment, and it's like, as a cop, I guess, like you would say that you don't want to, that thin blue line, and you don't want to throw your colleague under the bus and try to calm him down, or something like that nature. You're stuck being associated with this guy. Like, that sucks. Like, it makes good cops look bad because the good cops can't report on the bad cops. Like, it's just like you don't get promoted for doing that, like, unless it's something tragic. But like,
No, I understand. All right, so we're going to become this. Tell people how you can be found on the web.
You can find me on my YouTube channel. It's JOA space ORGA, or you can just look up Central Falls Police, and it'll be the first video that comes up.
And that'll bring you right into that.
Oh yeah, you can go right in there, subscribe, like, and share my videos if you could, please.
You're right into the matrix.
Yeah, it goes right where it needs to go.
I got to tell you, it's empowering to watch this. I mean, for anyone who's been on the wrong end and just has gotten dragged through the mud with this madness, where the pipeline. People in the civil rights movement in the city talk about the pipeline to prison, and so while we're smiling about it and exchanging some pretty interesting stories, folks need to remember that if you are a person of lesser means, that very often your brush with the law, as they say, can lead to a lifetime of circumstances.
Oh yeah.
That whether it be your insurance costs, your right to drive, your privilege to drive, right? Yeah, those would be fighting words.
The Supreme Court ruling says you have the right to drive.
Right. Whether any one of those features, ultimately your ability to be employed, it can affect your parental rights. I mean, just the different ways you can end up incarcerated that a simple traffic stop, a camera, a ticket, can start the ball rolling.
Oh yeah.
Is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot, and thanks to your work, it will not be diminished.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, Pat.
All right. So one more time, how do you spell the name?
Joa, Joa Orga, Orga, Joa Orga.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
we're going to provide some links on our Facebook page as well.
Awesome.
We're going to take a quick break right now. Joining me in just a couple of seconds is going to be Amy Gardner. Of course, she of again a different form of civil rights. She has been an activist for a number of years in the vaccination movement, and we're going to talk about HPV and some of the vaccinations, and we're also going to talk about some of the increasingly bad laws. It's really the two guests are really symbiotic here in the sense that government continues to attempt through just a war of attrition on a daily basis to diminish your civil rights, saying ultimately whether it be traffic stops and cameras, whether it be vaccination, whether it be access to medical information, how they are working aggressively on a step-by-step, infinitesimally small basis, but every day, to diminish your civil rights and to diminish your personal freedom. We are the Coalition. We are, as always, loud and proud, outrage, born free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Network here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. On the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. Still alive and breathing is our all anti-billionaire baseball boys club, anti-Pawtucket Red Sox Twitter corporate cronyism feed at Pawtucket is home, and of course the mothership, coalitionradio.us. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back.